Okay, welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track Facebook group. Today is February 11th, 2021. Good questions have rolled in. I've got my answers in front of me, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first question, the most upvoted one, was from Patrick S. Not me, but a different Patrick S. Okay, here we go. I've noticed that when you program lunges, they're always walking lunges, but I never see stationary lunges or step back lunges. Is there a reason why you prefer the walking lunges? Indeed, there is. So if you think about a lot of the stuff that we do in CrossFit, we do a tremendous amount of amazing functional movements that just produce some serious fitness. But very few of them fall into the realm of actually producing locomotion, actually moving you from point A to point B across planet Earth. Now, off the top of my head, I'm probably going to forget one, but just, off the top of my head, we're talking running does that, handstand walking does that, farmer's carries, walking lunges, I guess maybe if you did some broad jumps, but not much else. Almost everything else that we do, you're just stationary. You're where you are. You move very, very little, whether it's deadlifting, power cleans, hang power cleans, push press, push jerk, split jerk, shoulder press, ring dips, pull-ups, box jumps, double lungers, even rowing. You're not going anywhere. You're on the air bike. You're not going anywhere. Snatching, overhead squat, front squat, back squat, air squat. I mean, you name it, you're pretty much just stationary, kind of right where you are. So when we have the opportunity with a movement, so I could do, stepping back and forth lunges, and then once again, you're not really moving yourself across planet Earth. So when the opportunity presents itself to actually do that, to get in some real locomotion, I like to capitalize on that. Now, let's say a very popular and common question is, hey, there's 2 feet of snow outside. It's pouring down rain. I live on the 10th story of an apartment building in New York City, and it's a 3-round workout, and each round has 30 meters of walking lunges. What am I supposed to do? In that case, no worries. Absolutely do stationary lunges, do step back lunges, do some lunges. The fact that you're doing lunges, you'll be good to go. And what you could do, given the fact that you probably don't have 30 meters to lunge continuously in your apartment in New York City, let's say you've got a room that's 8 feet, whatever it happens to be, just break out a tape measure, break out something, measure out, 1 or 2 of your just average good lunge steps, see what distance that lunge step is, okay? And for easy math, let's just say that your lunge is 3 feet when you take a lunging step. And let's say, again, for easy math, that there's 30 feet, not meters, 30 feet of lunging per round. Well, that's 10 lunges. So now even if you're in a very small space, just do 10 stationary lunges per round, problem solved, you're good to go. So that would be my recommendation for that. Next most upvoted question was from Charlie B. Charlie B, where are you, sir? Here we go. What is the one book you would recommend to read and why? Great question. I'm definitely a book nerd, not even a closet book nerd, just a full book nerd. I can't give you just one. I'm so sorry. I just can't do that. It's not possible. So I'll give you some. How about that? For ones that I have really enjoyed, Man's Search for Meaning by Frankl. I think it's fantastic. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie is also fantastic. I don't like the title of that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it sounds cheesy car salesman-ish. Like I'm trying to, like the book is going to teach you to not be yourself and lure people into your manner of thinking, right? Like how to win friends and influence people. And while there might be some of that in that, what I really like about that book is I just feel it's a great book on communication and a great book on listening and empathizing with people and understanding where they're coming from. And if you have to present a message to somebody that's worthwhile, well, there's a more effective and a less effective way to do that. And communicating is a huge deal of what we do, and most of us could be better at it. So it's for those reasons I like Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. 12 Rules for Life from Peterson I enjoyed very much. Almost anything by Malcolm Gladwell always gets my mind working, and I tremendously enjoy it, and it gives me some introspection. So those ones that I just mentioned right there, a small handful, those ones I would put under the category of not self-help. I don't even know if personal development is the right category or grouping for that, but those are books anyway that get me thinking about myself, my role on planet Earth. Am I being a good human being in the broad sense of humanity? What are my pitfalls, downfalls, deficiencies, blind spots, and what could I do to improve them, which will therefore ideally help make me a better person, or a more productive person, or a more empathetic person, or intelligent person. And hopefully by that will then have an influence in my sphere of people, will then have an influence in their sphere of people. And so those books I like for that reason. I think they're very powerful for that reason. And that whole, any book which would fall into that kind of a bucket is probably one of my favorites. Like I read a great book about building the transcontinental railroad across the U.S. Tremendous story, incredible story, and did give me some things to think about, but it didn't make me think about being a better person like some of those books that I just mentioned. So that's that one bucket. Like the books that I read are my primary ones that I think ideally get me thinking about being a better person and why, and doing some serious self-reflection. Those are my favorites. The next type that are my favorites, that I don't really have any particular recommendations at this time, would be things that are nonfiction. They occur in the real world, but in my humble opinion, most of us should be better educated about them because they influence our lives, but we don't really have a good understanding about them. And that would be anything from taxes to the economy, to how the banking system works, to industry, there's just a lot of stuff that we just kind of bebop through in the world. And when you dive into the nuances of how those subsectors operate, they're fascinating as far as I'm concerned. So all of those nonfiction categories would be great. Anyway, fantastic one. We could talk books for a while. And there's the Linchpin book club that we operate. I shouldn't say we operate, but we've got people that post a Linchpin book club, and it's fantastic. So dive into that as well. Share some tales there. Okay. Next one was from Tyler S. This was well received by everybody. Tyler S., here we go. Let me read the question. I'm always interested when I hear professional athletes break down game film or highlights to hear the way they look at a game differently than the fans in the stands. With that in mind, could you break down a workout that you've programmed that the community has had a unique response to? What a great phrase, unique response. For instance, Tuesday's interval workout with double unders, wall balls, knees to elbows, and deadlifts seemed to take everybody by surprise, including me. Could you break down how you look at that workout and estimate the intended stimulus? People definitely, I don't want to say enjoyed that workout. They enjoyed it in a sick CrossFit way. And it caught a lot of people off guard. It seemed to catch the overwhelming majority of people off guard, just as Tyler said in his question. It looked like a locomotive coming as far as I think I saw the bright light in the engine coming right towards me. So that workout, for anyone who's unfamiliar with it, took place on February 9th, 2021. It was 3 intervals, each for time, with 3 minutes rest between each interval. And an interval was comprised of 55 double unders, 25 wall ball shots, 15 knees to elbows, 15 deadlifts at 50% of your 1 rep max, and then 500 meter row. this particular, well, I don't know where to start with this. So this workout does not live in isolation. Let me put it that way. This workout exists and was created and came into being based upon looking at the previous couple days before it, the week before it, and the week before that. When I lay out the programming in 4-week blocks, I start to lay out and list and prioritize where we've been and where we need to go, be it on time domains, movements, loadings, rep ranges, whatever it happens to be. And like pieces of a big puzzle, I start to put them in places and I move them around, and there's a tremendous amount of moving around and shifting and massaging and modifications that goes in over the course of, it takes about a week just to lay out the rough sketch of those 4 weeks, okay? To finally get everything where it needs to be. So this workout, it wasn't like I just had a blank piece of paper, nothing else existed, and I created this workout out of nowhere. This workout was born because of everything else that's around it. And it's okay. So even that's a big part of it. And then on top of that, if you look previous, so we didn't go below parallel or pull from the ground the day before, which was a Monday. We didn't go below parallel or pull from the ground. And then the day after, Wednesday, we didn't go below parallel or pull on the ground. So both going below parallel and pulling from the ground worked very well on Tuesday. We had a rest day on Sunday, 2 days before this workout, okay? And we had another rest day coming on Thursday. So I knew that this is right in the middle. Sunday, rest day. Monday, not pulling from the ground, not going below parallel. Bang. Tuesday is this interval day. Wednesday, not going below parallel, not pulling from the ground. The next day, Thursday, is a rest day. So there's a 5-day block with this day, this interval day in the middle, that I knew was going to be profoundly challenging, pack a tremendous wallop, and hit athletes pretty hard. And so it lived very nicely in this 5-day environment that would ideally allow the athlete to hit it hard on that day, but not overtrain and smoke themselves in the days before and after. So again, none of this kind of stuff lives in isolation. So all of it has to be taken back, from a 30,000 foot view, then to a 20,000, then a 10,000, a 5,000, until you get down to a kind of granular level as to why certain things happen on certain days. Well, this was a relatively shorter time domain. Relatively, we're not talking Fran-ish, obviously. These were, depending upon the athlete, 4 to 6 minutes-ish, ish, around there for each interval. But then the day after that, it was a 30-minute time domain of just long, slow distance, et cetera, So that worked out quite well there. Almost just to shake out the body, if you will. There's a reason we also posted that day after this interval day. And we also put I could have prescribed a loading for the deadlifts in this workout, but I very intentionally decided to make it a percentage work at a relatively miserable and uncomfortable number, right? 15 reps at 50% of your 1 rep max. And that also comes into play. I don't want to give away what's happening in the future. Today's Thursday. Everyone watching this right now has access to the Beyond the Whiteboard app and can see into the future. But so percentage work at a moderately high rep worked well on this day because we have max effort-ish, at low reps coming on Friday in a below parallel. Friday, if I'm remembering correctly, is 7 sets of 1 front squat. So now we're getting what we had relatively challenging pulling off the ground in this interval workout on Tuesday at a percentage. Now on Friday, we're not going to have a percentage. We've got 7 sets of 1. Just how heavy can you go for 7 front squats now below parallel? So those two things worked well also. And the below parallel that we had on Tuesday's workout is quite different than the below parallel that we're going to have on Friday. Friday being 7 sets of 1. Very heavy loading relative to the athlete's capacity with very low rep scheme, 7 sets of 1. What did we have on Tuesday? Higher numbers, 25 sets of wall balls at a relatively low loading. So an entirely different stimulus, even though both are below parallel. So we're getting a nice bit of variance, but in different ways to do it. And then this workout was also just all about interference, was another thing that we were quite intentionally doing, this intentional interference. You get 55 double unders. You know, if you've got double unders, a set of 55 is no big deal, right? Kind of easy day, but it just primes you a little bit, gets the legs going, gets a little bit of the winding going in the old metabolic system here. Shoulders, if you're tense right there, that's not going to help you out at all. The rope goes down immediately into a set of 25 wall ball shots, which if 25 wall ball shots were tucked into a 4-round workout with no rest near the end, there's probably a really good chance most people would break them up. But since they're the second movement of an interval style workout that has some rest, there's a really good chance that most people are going to push through those 25 wall ball shots. So now you hit the jump rope, you hit the wall ball shots, you've got below parallel, you certainly haven't recovered your wind quite yet. As a matter of fact, you're more winded than you were a second ago. Shoulders are starting to burn a little bit just from the 25. Now we're going to go over to the bar for knees to elbows. You're going to be crunching that midline. You're not going to recover your breath there. It's also very taxing of the lats and the grip. And this is another rabbit hole we could go down. I'll just flat out say it. I think knees to elbows are far superior to toes to bar. Far superior to toes to bar. From how much you have to bring your hips and legs up to actually have your knees make contact with the elbows is higher than what you would have to do if you have nice loose hamstrings and you can keep your legs straight and do toes to bar. So I think they're much more demanding on most athletes. You have to crunch your midline a whole heck of a lot more and a lot more lat recruitment and engagement there. But sadly, knees to elbows are just more challenging to judge in a competition setting. So I think we'll always see toes to bar favored in a competition setting for ease of judging. But if I had to do one of those two movements, that's it for the rest of my life for the midline, it would not be toes to bar. It would be knees to elbows. Knees to elbows are fantastic. So we do that for the knees to elbows. Everything has not received a break just yet. Now the midline is taxed, the lats have been taxed, the grip has been taxed, we've gone below parallel, the shoulders are hit, we're breathing a bit heavy, and now we've got 15 deadlifts at 50% of your 1 rep max. So wherever you are as an athlete, it's 50% of your 1 rep max. So it's nice and beautifully appropriate and kind of fair for everybody. There's that grip. There's that midline that you needed. There's those hamstrings. You know, you got to keep your lats engaged and keep your back tight on the deadlift. All of that's going to make it for a very challenging set of 15 that probably feels a lot different than when you first saw the workout, how you thought those deadlifts would go. And then quite intentionally, I didn't have it end with a run, which would have been kinder. I didn't have it end with a bike, which would have been kinder. I chose intentionally a movement which is very similar in mimicking exactly what we've previously done in the workout. I wanted the intentional interference because, not that we do that all the time, but doing that every now and then is critical for the sake of variance. And quite frankly, since we're not training for some fictitious competition, we're training for real life. Real life every now and then won't have the one activity that precedes it or follows another one have less interference. It may be quite similar. It might be worse. It might be more demanding of the exact same muscle groups. And so while every now and then that might produce quote unquote lower intensity because we are directly interfering with what happened to it previously, and so that might cause the athlete to slow down a bit. And if in general, intensity is a good thing, so most of the time we might choose a movement that interferes less to keep the athlete moving. Every now and then, there's tremendous value and benefit into making it tougher, choosing the tougher route. And so that is exactly why the 500-meter row was placed after the wall balls, after the knees to elbows, after the deadlift. You've got to hop on the rower. So, and once you're in the rower, it's kind of a choose your own adventure, right? If you row casually, you're going to have a casual experience. If you row with a tremendous amount of passion, you will have a passionate experience. So, and yeah, that seemed to be people seem to quote unquote enjoy that. So I'll have to put a fun little asterisk next to that so that we can circle back to it in a while. Okay, next question was from Philip, which was, what is my most embarrassing CrossFit moment? I had to think about this one for a bit. Probably had a tremendous amount, but one that's probably pretty high on the list. I cannot remember the year that this took place, but it was at the CrossFit Games. We were at the StubHub Center, the former Home Depot Center in Carson, California, doing the desk show, going live, and it was between events. I can't remember who was at the desk with me. Most likely Sean, maybe Katie Matter-Henniger. Anyway, long story short, at the desk, going live. Now we're in a break in the show, maybe a break between events, so we had 10, 20 minutes or whatnot. However, we're still mic'd up, but supposedly everything's off. We're not transmitting anymore. Well, there's a little term in media and also in the military as well, known as a hot mic. And a hot mic basically means that your microphone, it's still transmitting even if you thought that it was off. Whatever you're saying is still going out over the airwaves. So I enjoy sarcasm. I enjoy humor. I enjoy making such remarks. And I just started doing exactly what I was doing, because the event was still playing on our monitors. And so I was just giving like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of sarcastic commentary over what I was seeing. And it's, anyone who knows me knows that that's how I am. And so this is everything that I said, I would have said, if those very people were standing right there, because that's just how I joke around with people. But, I was just goofing around, messing around, and unbeknownst to me, that was not getting pumped into, it wasn't getting pumped into the arena, into the crowds, but it was getting pumped into the, underneath the StubHub Center. There's a whole labyrinth of tunnels and rooms, the living, breathing organism down there, locker rooms and all kinds of just stuff, logistics areas. It was getting pumped down there to everybody down there. And, the athletes have their own warm-up area. And all of this was going into the athlete warm-up area as well. And I was joking around and messing around with, various athletes, saying that they, crapped the bed or, did whatever they happened to do, use some colorful language. And this was going on for several minutes. And then I got a text message from Jason McDonald. And if you don't know who Jason McDonald is, he's a fantastic individual. He's up there in Canada. He's a level 1, part of the level 1 training staff. He was in the UFC. It's Jason the athlete McDonald. So not somebody that you'd want to mess with, have a tussle with. And he texted me and he's like, Pat, brother, what you're saying is hysterical. You're cracking me up. But in case you don't know, it's getting pumped everywhere over the speakers. I did not know that. So I texted him back, thank you very much for letting me know that. And I very quickly shut my mouth. And then later on, I bumped into several people who had heard the stuff. And then later on that day, one of the athletes that I was, joking about, I wasn't quite sure if they'd heard me. So I had to go up to them and kind of tell them what had happened. And so as it turns out, they had not heard, but what are you going to do, right? Live and learn. Media, the mic is always hot. That was the lesson learned. They tell you that the mics are off and you're good, talk freely. Do not talk freely, because you never know. So yeah, that was a good one. All right, next question is from Eric. Eric had a bit of a devious question, okay? Let's be honest with each other. Here we go, Eric's question. If you want to expose a fitness deficiency in a friend, I love the fact that it's a friend. And a friend who goes to a traditional gym, kind of bodybuilding style, what workout would you pick? Well, we've all been there, right? And we've all bestowed a beautiful gift of CrossFit fitness to an unsuspecting friend / victim. So obviously, do it appropriately, be careful and all that stuff. But this to me, I think back to because that's the world that I came from. Just traditional bodybuilding stuff, right? I mean, Monday and Thursday, chest and tri. Tuesday and Friday, back and biceps. Wednesday and Saturday, legs and shoulders. Sprinkle in some cardio, sprinkle in some crunches, call it good. Largely machine-based movements, leg press, leg curl, pec deck, and segmented training, right? Not mixed modality training. You would do 3 sets of 10 bench press, and then you would go do 3 sets of 10 something else, and you wouldn't sprint a 200-meter repeat, do 5 burpees, then do bench press, then do something else. You didn't do this mixed modality. It was segmented. And a lot of not compound multi-joint movements like a squat clean, a back squat, a thruster. That's not the world that I came from anyway, and it doesn't sound like Eric's friend is living in that right now. So by its very nature, if you expose somebody who lives in the world of segmented training, relatively low intensity training, machine-based training, and then you expose them to high intensity, mixed modality, multi-joint, compound joint, total body, large load, long distance, quickly fitness, you're going to capsize the ship immediately, really. You can almost choose anything. But workouts that I think of that are very sneaky, they're well camouflaged, right? Cindy. I mean, even a 10-minute Cindy, maybe no need to go 20 minutes, but 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. There's not even any weight in there, right? I mean, that is a workout that will not get most people's respect. But 5, 6, 7 minutes into 20 minutes worth of Cindy, it will have everybody's respect if they are not used to doing CrossFit. Another one that has a light loading and actually gets in a little bit of running, and while Cindy is gymnastics, another one that is very deceptive, we're big fans of it at Linchpin, and it's wonderfully mixed modality of monostructure weightlifting and gymnastics, is Helen. So now we've got 3 rounds for time of a 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, and 12 pull-ups. Helen is gorgeous, and Helen, again, looks really simple, right? Doesn't take a long time, and will have everybody just questioning their life choices. So those are a couple that I would say are really good ones. But on first exposure, even a 10-minute Cindy would have made me feel back in the day like I'd never worked out a day in my life. It would have really opened my eyes. Okay. We've got 2 more questions. One's from Abby V. Best advice for somebody who wants to start an affiliate. Man, great question. There's so much there. Here it is in just some chunks. I mean, in each one of these chunks we could talk about for 15 minutes, but here it is in just chunks. And in no particular order, but first and foremost, caring comes to the top of the list. If you're getting into this business, you better truly and genuinely care about people and care about their journeys and their struggles and what's going on with their life. Not just about their workouts. You have to obviously care about their health and fitness, their long-term health and fitness, and taking wonderful care of them. But you're going to start, ideally, a community, a real community of real people that have good days and bad days and highs and lows, and all the support and empathy and understanding and managing and maneuvering and being the caretaker of that community, I think is a lot of the tremendously important nuances that may not be readily apparent at first glance. So you better truly care about people, or I don't think you'll find success. if you don't. I don't care how good you are at writing workouts. If you don't care about people, they're going to know. People can tell when you care. And so I would put that profoundly high on the list. You obviously need, should go without saying, just your knowledge base. Your knowledge base to make sure that what you're doing and what you're providing, that the service is appropriate and adequate and safe and efficient and effective and all that stuff. So you need your knowledge base on just strength and conditioning, which is obviously widely available, through CrossFit for sure. And then you are starting a business. You have to have some business savvy. You can care all you want, but if the expenses are more than the income, then your doors will close. So there has to be that whole aspect of it as well. And then the type of community that you will choose to cultivate is up to you. And that could relate to your programming. Do you have a particular bias, which may or may not be bad, an Olympic lifting bias, a running bias, a gymnastics bias, a heavy bias, or as I like to say, a fitness bias, a well-rounded bias, which is what we do. None of those are right or wrong, and you'll find people that want what you're offering, because there are people who want each one of those subcategories. You just need to decide what is it that you want to pursue, and that you will be truly passionate and genuinely passionate about, and build that sort of community, but it's a fantastic undertaking. And the final question will be from Beth. Didn't get the most upvotes, but I think it's a great question. I'd like to answer it just so everybody has it. And Beth's question is basically about, how do I decide what the warm-ups will be? And, we see things like the Bergner and, things for pull-ups and all that, but why are some longer or shorter? Some seem to be a workout in themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So warm-ups are critical and, and incredibly important. And, the general aspects of a warm-up is, almost regardless of what the workout is, you just want to elevate the body core temperature, you want to elevate the breathing rate, you want to move the body through a proper range of motion given whatever the athlete is going to be exposed to in that workout on that particular day. I would say on average, some might be longer or shorter, but on average our warm-ups take about ballpark 15 minutes. And there are some things that make a regular appearance. I do try to put the Bergner warm-up where it makes sense into the warm-ups. Definitely once a week. I would love to see it in there twice a week, because it's so tremendously valuable for just keeping the movement pattern of the snatch fresh in your head, but it's also a fantastic head-to-toe warm-up. If we are doing some sort of pull-up, chest-to-bar pull-up, ring muscle-up, bar muscle-up kind of a movement, then there are things that will make a regular appearance because they are effective, such as banded pull-aparts, scap pull-ups, and kip swings, things like that, to make sure that your shoulders are warmed up appropriately for what that movement happens to be. Based upon whether or not we're, hinging at the hip, loading the midline in a certain way, going below parallel, we're certainly big fans of the hip and back extension. Those will make a regular appearance, not only for their ability to warm the athlete up, but just the kinesthetic awareness that they produce and the ability to strengthen the athlete's midline under no load, no external loading in any way, shape, or form. Huge fans of the hip and back extension. And on Thursdays and Sundays in the text that's provided on those rest days on the Linchpin private track, if you read that text, we talk about warm-ups there and what makes a good warm-up and how to experiment with warm-ups. And we say very specifically in there, the warm-ups that we provide, you could use forever and be good to go. If you never wanted to have to think about what you should do for a warm-up, then you're good. Go ahead, go for it. But another great thing to consider is, if you follow the prescribed warm-ups for a long period of time, you'll start to develop things that maybe work a little bit better for you. And those things that you find through experimentation and repeated exposure treat your hips very well, your midline very well. They warm up your hamstrings great. They open up your shoulders. Then you by all means are authorized and should feel good to go to include those when they make sense. So for example, because each person's just a little bit different. So it takes me, we could do the same workout in my garage, and I go out there and work out with my wife, and we're going to do the same workout, but based upon what's happened to my body over the years and what's happened to her body over the years, we might deviate a little bit in the warm-up. Maybe it's a 3-round warm-up, and I don't know, with my old creaky shoulders, I need all 3 rounds. Take my time, get those shoulders opened up, or there's no way that I'm going to get into a front rack position. Whereas Emily, my wife, half the time, if it's a 3-round warm-up at 2 rounds, she's like, I'm good, I'm ready. I'm not going to do the 3rd round of the warm-up. I feel good and warmed up, and I'm going to go now. And so 2 rounds was just fine for her, and she makes that decision. She stops after 2 rounds. I need all 3 rounds, and so I do that. Somebody else might do all 3 rounds and need a little bit of rolling out or band work or something on the side because they've got something else going on with their knee, shoulder, or whatnot. So everybody should, those warm-ups are just wonderful, general, fully inclusive warm-ups for you to use, but based upon anything that you have going on, like again, I've got bad shoulders, you should feel free to modify those and massage those in any way, shape, or form. Let's see, there's something else I wanted to have in there. I think that was about it. But anyway, that's that. I forgot to open the Linchpin shoutouts today. So let me just open these real quick, and we'll hit a couple. We'll hit a couple real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, let me open up this one. What's this one here? Nicholas M., one of our favorite Canadians. So Nicholas had himself a bad knee from, I can't remember what happened, if he was out in the sporting world or whatnot, but got himself a bad knee that was giving him some pain, wanted to stay away from it for a while, and was concerned that he would have to avoid a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of movements that he enjoyed, and would that negatively affect everything that he had going on. I tried to put his fears to rest based upon everything that I've seen and experienced through CrossFit. We don't just say these aren't just empty words. That he couldn't use his knee for a while, but what that gave him the opportunity to do is, through intelligent modifications and scaling, focus on a whole bunch of other things that maybe weren't his strengths, embrace some deficiencies. And the odd thing about CrossFit, again, these aren't just empty words, since the body's one piece, one system, working your weaknesses time and time again, we see not only improve those areas of deficiencies, but also improve the areas that you are already good at in mysterious ways. And again, probably because the body is one interconnected piece. So here's what Nicholas had to say. I'll read this one, and then I'll save the rest for next time. Today was by far a mental adventure. Let's see. Snatch is his favorite movement, and he was angry. Since his injury, he has not had the ability to snatch heavy. His mind and ego, wanted to really go for it. So he started to lift again, because I guess his knee's starting to feel better, but he's been working on a tremendous amount of body weight movements and staying away from the barbell. That's the point. So it started, felt great. 205 felt like a PVC pipe. 215 pounds was heavier, but the catch under felt amazing. 225 was good, not quite as amazing, but still good. Then he went for 230. Why not? Got 240, jumped backwards instead of under. So we put the ego aside, worked on it a little bit. And then let's say, basically realized once again, dude, you are snatching over 200 pounds after an injury and after 3 months of no squatting with not even any Olympic lifting whatsoever. You're doing great, true CrossFit, and follow the journey, enjoy the win. Oh, and by the way, he ended with a 5-pound PR on the snatch. So he stayed away from that movement. You're not supposed to not snatch for 3 months and not squat for 3 months, and then on a 7x1 squat snatch day, PR by 5 pounds. That's not supposed to happen. Now, I can't say that this will happen every time, but what I'm here to tell everyone listening is I have seen this happen so many times that I can no longer just say that it's a coincidence, that there is something to it. And so if you find yourself in that position that you can't do movement A, B, or C, whatever it happens to be, and you have to stay away from it for a while, if you have the mental discipline to use that time, do what you can, but then to focus on potentially some areas of deficiency that you've been neglecting, I think the payoff will be worth it. And that's exactly what we saw with Nicholas, and I see it time and time again. There's a reason that we do what we do at Linchpin. There's a reason that we embrace pure, true, beautiful CrossFit methodology. It works. That's why we do what we do. So that's it. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk later.